Roll call, please. Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Coon?
Here.
Dr. Corleone?
Here.
Mr. Brown? Dr. King?
Here.
Dr. Modrak?
Here.
Mr. Morello?
Here.
Ms. Novi? Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mr. Palm?
Here.
Genevieve Blake?
Here.
And Jay Surratt.
Here.
Quorum present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Stevens, please read the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law statement.
New Jersey's Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies of which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Montville Township Board of Education approved this meeting date. Notice of the meeting has been posted at the municipal building, all Montville Public Schools, the Montville Public Library, the Montville Township Board of Education Administrative Office Building, the Montville Public School website, and advertised in the Daily Record.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Okay, we'll hear from our high school student representatives. How are you guys tonight?
Good, how are
Great.
you? For sports, the cross-country team advanced to and participated in the state group meet last Saturday, marking the end of the fall sports season and the beginning of the winter sports season. Many winter teams are starting up practice this week in anticipation of a great season ahead. Many varsity sports players have committed to play NCAA Division I athletics. Seniors that committed last week include Matthew Superoff, that committed to SUNY Binghamton baseball, and Erica Muha, the University of Utah gymnastics team. For clubs, on November 8th, the forensic team continued their dominant season with a successful tournament at our own high school. Some of the top results include Emily Liao placing third in declamation, Alexandros Pandassis placing third in oral interpretation, Pranav Kumar placing second in Congress, Claire Sullivan and James Burnett placing second in duo interpretation, Christopher Mayer placing second in exempt, Arushi Gupta placing second in declamation, Shad Yassin placing first in oral interpretation, Jay Surratt placing first in extemporaneous speaking, and Noah Weinglass placing first in original oratory. Overall, the team placed second. The team also competed at Manville High School this past Saturday, placing second as well. The Friends of Rachel's Club has finalized its leadership committee and has already put forth many initiatives to make our school a kinder place. It has over 60 active members.
Moving on to our school, yesterday 12 more seniors were inducted into the National Honor Society, chosen for their academic and leadership abilities. New members include Vikas Akarahu, Travis April, Alex Cano, Ryan Chan, Jacob Coleman, Ali Gross, Kevin Koski, Noah Lichtenstein, Brittany Levis, Titney Zay, Nicole Brella, and Jackie Van Dalen. The senior banquet is also coming up, and on December 5th, so far, the class has passed their quota of 200 students. Seniors are looking forward to the amazing event. Also, sophomore Sydney Kane is currently running to win a Hometown Singer Award for Z100. She is in the top 5 contestants as of now. If she wins, she will have exclusive opportunities to sing for major producers, as well as attend the Z100 Jingle Ball at Madison Square Garden. Students continue to vote online in her support. The high school is in the process of collecting canned goods for its annual Thanksgiving food drive. Hundreds of cans were collected last year, and the school is hoping to make this year's drive even more successful. Furthermore, students are excited to participate, as their homerooms with the most collections and highest participation rates will receive bagel breakfasts. Yesterday afternoon, many students, board members, PTC members, library representatives, and others from our community met to discuss renovations on our high school library. The meeting was very successful, and interesting ideas were put on the table. Students are incredibly excited for this upcoming renovation. Going forward, winter sports are rapidly approaching. Students are either getting excited to play or excited to watch. There is a lot of anticipation for all our sports teams, especially our hockey team after their spectacular season last year.
Thank you, Jay. Any comments or questions from the board? I just want to congratulate you, Jay, on your being in first place for
Thank you.
forensics. Another wonderful accomplishment from all of our athletes. And I did have an opportunity to go to National Honor Society, and it's always a pleasure and an honor to watch our students be inducted in that ceremony. And the last thing I'll comment on is you mentioned the Media Center renovation project. This is something that we've been working on for a couple of years now. We've put some money aside in the last 2 budgets to do a much-needed renovation of the high school media center. And I just want to publicly thank the high school principal, Mr. Doug Sanford, because he has, in this endeavor, it's a large project, a very important project, and Mr. Sanford has put this together in a very thoughtful and inclusive way. And we're not rushing into this, but it's been a step-by-step process, and I think including all stakeholders, the students, the staff, board members, parents, the town library, the director of the town library is part of the committee. And I think the end product will be embraced by everyone. So Doug, I just wanted to say thank you to you.
Karen, I just wanted to congratulate Jay. I was also at the National Honor Society last night, and it is always a terrific event. There are so many wonderful things on this agenda, so many wonderful accomplishments, but there's one that stands out to me because I know it's been a lifelong exploit for Erica Muhaw, who practices day in and day out on gymnastics, and for her to go to the college of her choice, which is Utah, which has such a powerful pre-Olympic gymnastics program. It's just a really wonderful thing. So I just wanted to say congratulations to Erica and to the Muhaw family.
Thank you. Good stuff. Okay, moving along to the superintendent's report.
Thanks, Karen. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. The only item that I have to discuss is the district calendar revision. I did send a letter. I thank our parent leaders for putting that out for us regarding the 2015-2016 school year. So not this year, but next year. We did make a mistake. We had initially put President's Day as February 22nd. It is actually February 15th, that Monday, and tonight we'll be asking the board to adopt the revised calendar to that effect. It will go online tomorrow, and we did in fact put that out in print for our parents. So I thank, I see Terry and Andrea out there, thank you for your help with that. So we have several presentations, and our first one is a wonderful presentation to recognize an Eagle Scout, David M. Champion, and I know there have been some formal proceedings already, but I'll ask Dr. Cordolino to say a few words, as she always likes to do, and present David with his certificate and plaque.
I'll be happy to. And I enjoy it because I'm the mother of an Eagle Scout. So David, come on up here to the mic, and then I'll say a few words, and then we'll give you a presentation resolution. I don't know if people who are not involved in Boy Scouts understands the level of commitment it takes to reach the level of an Eagle Scout. It usually starts for the young man at a very early age, kindergarten or first grade, and as they move through Cub Scouts and then Boy Scouts, there are various levels that they pass through, from Scout to Star and Life, eventually Eagle, culminating with a large community service project. Each level brings a greater degree of leadership quality as well as responsibility. And I really like to say that becoming an Eagle Scout is a life's work, even though a young man may only be 15, 16, 17 years old. So to you, David, congratulations. And I also know, as the parent of an Eagle Scout, that they owe a lot to their moms and dads, because without the constant nagging, reminding, help, support. It's hard to reach the level that you have. So it's our honor tonight to pass this resolution. I'll come over and read it to you and to the audience. So the resolution reads, whereas David Champion is a resident of the Township of Montville, and whereas David has attended the Montville Township schools, David is and has been a member of Boy Scout Troop 64 in the Township of Dover and has reached the great distinction of achieving the position of Eagle Scout. David completed as his Eagle Scout project a shed for the Environmental Club at Robert R. Lazar Middle School. He was an active member of the club while attending Lazar and chose to construct this shed to house supplies and serve as a meeting site for the organization. Construction began in April and was completed in July. The Environmental Club maintains the school's plants, gardens, and ponds, which also serves as both a learning area and source of scientific observation. The new shed will house the club's equipment such as plant pots, shovels, rakes, watering cans, tools, topsoil, seeds, greenhouse, and pond equipment. Now therefore be it resolved that the Montville Township Board of Education, this, the 18th day of November, 2014, recognizes and applauds the innovation, creativity, and hard work of David Champion for the honor and distinction he has brought to his family, school, and community in reaching his goal as Eagle Scout. Congratulations.
Madam President, I just would like to add to the comments that you made. I was fortunate enough to be at the ceremony this Sunday when the award was made to be Eagle Scout for David. And it was a very impressive ceremony. It really was. I was so glad that I had the opportunity to be there. And the accolades from so many people, first of all, the number of people that attended, and the accolades he received from the state legislature, from legislators who attended. I was very impressed and very happy to be there. It was my pleasure. And I know I'm being redundant, but for the benefit of the people who are here tonight, I am really convinced that somewhere Bob Lazar is looking down upon your accomplishment and how it enhances the school with his name on it. And I know he would be very, very proud of you and what you've done for the school that bears his name. Thank you.
Okay. Next we have another actually very special presentation to make. And this is to Rich Medwin, who has done something very special on behalf of the students of the school district. And I would ask Jim Tevis, our business administrator, and Sharon Carr, the principal of Lazar Middle School, to please step forward and to bring this presentation forward.
Thank you, Dr. Freed. And at this time, I would like to invite Principal Sharon Carr along with Mr. Medwin. This is something extraordinary that we don't see a lot, and I got to tell you, it's not often that as a business administrator I get to make this kind of a presentation. And this is a very special employee that we have before us this evening, and very, very, very proud, to be honest with you. Sharon will give you a brief background on the actual event that brought Mr. Medwin here tonight, but it was definitely extraordinary.
And Jim, I got him up here. I got him actually up to the microphone. We didn't know if we would be able to do that.
Great.
A month or so ago, we knew when we had Rich as a custodian at Lazar, we had a wonderful, wonderful custodian. Turns out we also have a hero. We had a child who spent much of his day in a wheelchair choke on a cheeseburger. And fortunately, Rich, being conscientious, was in the cafeteria, lifted that child right up, and you know, in 8th grade, they're big, you know, they're big kids in 8th grade. He lifted this child up, did the Heimlich, and in seconds, the cheeseburger was dislodged. The nurses, by the time our nurses, who don't run or walk, they fly, by the time they got to the cafeteria, the child was smiling. The children had already given Rich an applause. He ran out of the cafeteria and hid, so no one would even know that this happened. And the nurse was absolutely amazed that this took place within seconds of this young gentleman choking. And by the time we got there, and I'm so calm when it comes to hovering over children, all our little guy said was, "I don't ever want to eat a cheeseburger again." And Rich, we had to go find Rich in the building, and saving someone's life is huge. And many of you are doctors. I've never saved anyone's life. We were speechless. And Rich humbly, as I said, I'm surprised I even got him here tonight. I had to actually work on his wife. I had to work on Vinny and Casey back there. But Vinny and Casey, your dad is not only special and a hero in your house, but in our house called Lazar Middle School. So Rich, we love you. So, thank you, Mrs. Medlin. Rich, we love you.
This really is a great effort. We're all very appreciative. It's small, saving anybody's life, especially a child, is certainly something that can't go unrecognized. Thank you very much.
The next presentation this evening is one that I'll be doing and isn't quite as much fun and nearly as interesting or congratulatory as the first two. Twice a year, based on New Jersey education law, I need to do a report on what's called violence and vandalism and HIV, which is the harassment, intimidation, and bullying law. The report I make at this time of the year is actually a report on the events of the second half of last year. So this really is for spring of 2014. We're always, based on the way the reports are generated, we're always giving a report 6 months behind. And that's the way the system it works. So the first part of the report will be specifically on the violence and vandalism. And these are reportable offenses that, based on the state definition of particular events, are reported in particular ways, in particular categories. So for, again, the reporting period of the second half of the school year 2013-14, last year, we had 10 incidents of violence and vandalism, and these are broken up into 4 different categories. They're broken up into violence, vandalism, weapons, and substance abuse. And so for that 5-month period, the second half of last year, 5 of those areas were in the area of violence, 4 of them at the high school and 1 of them at the middle school. We had 1 incident of vandalism taking place at the high school, 2 incidences of weapons taking place at the high school, 2 instances of substance abuse at the high school, for a total of, as I said, 10. As you can imagine, most incidents that are reportable of this type are going to be in our upper grades, of course. The second part of the report, having to do with violence and vandalism, talks about suspensions that occur as a result of behavioral incidents throughout the district. And they're broken up into both in-school and out-of-school, as well as what's called suspension of privileges. In this area, there's a total of 34 for the 5-month period. Altogether, there were 21 incidents of out-of-school suspension, 3 incidents of in-school, 3 of suspension with privilege, with loss of privileges, suspension of privileges, and 6 that fall in the other category, and 1 that fall in the detention category. Again, based on the definition of those categories according to the law. So for a total of 34. And then the last part is the harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents, again for the second half of last year. A number of cases, of course, come to our attention, which we investigate. The majority of those cases turn out not to be what, based on state definition of HIV, turn out not to be HIV, but some of them do, based on particular, again, aspects of the law. And for the second half, we had a total of 12 in the district. And those were broken down for 3 at Cedar Hill School, 3 at the high school, 2 at the middle school, 2 at William Mason, and 2 at Woodmont, for a total of 12. So I would ask the Board of Education if they have any questions or comments about that report.
I have a question, 2 questions. The high school weapons, what were the weapons?
They were pocket knives.
And I don't know if you've had a chance, but do you know how we're trending with vandalism and violence? Are we steady? More cases, less cases?
I think it's fairly consistent, but I'll certainly look more into that, and if there's anything that trends in a particular way, I'll inform the board and community about that.
Thank you.
Okay. And our next presentation actually fits in very nicely with my last report on violence and vandalism and harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and that whole general area of what we sometimes call climate and culture within a school, because it has to do with how people relate to one another, how people treat one another, and how people see the environment that they're in. And this report is going to, our presentation will come to us by the Youth Empowerment Alliance, YEA for short. This is a group that has made a presentation to our administrative team, is already working in some ways with our guidance department throughout our school district, but they have much more that they can offer to school districts. And to introduce that presentation, I'm going to ask Andrea Woodring, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, to make some introductions.
Good evening. According to the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, and I quote, each school district must annually establish, implement, document, and assess HIB prevention programs or approaches and other initiatives involving parents, law enforcement, and other community members, students, staff, and administrators and school volunteers. The programs or approaches and other initiatives must be designed to create school-wide conditions to prevent and address HIB. To possibly help our district meet this mandate, we are considering partnering with United Way Youth Empowerment Alliance and the College of St. Elizabeth. So tonight, we have the two co-directors of the program, Dr. Patricia Heindel, Professor of Psychology and Dean of the Human and Social Development Division at the College of St. Elizabeth, and Ms. Liz Warner, the Community Impact Manager of Education and Youth Employment Alliance Project Leader for the United Way of Northern New Jersey. They will be able to provide you with more information about this initiative and how they help schools with their expertise and resources to make changes to the culture and climate of the schools. So now I would like to turn it over to Liz and Trish to speak to you more about the program and how it may benefit our school district.
Thank you, Angie.
I'm still not long enough to take my coat off. So, I'm giving it a go. Anyway, thank you very much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Liz Warner from United Way of Northern New Jersey.
And I'm Patricia Heindel from the College of St. Elizabeth. Thank you for the lovely info.
Yes, and as mentioned, we're co-directors of the School Culture and Climate Initiative, which is a partnership between the two organizations. And we thought we'd give you a little bit of background about both why the two organizations are involved in this and where we are now and what we hope to do in terms of working a bit more closely with the Montville School District. One of the first questions that I always get from United Way is, why is United Way working with schools? Is it United Way a fundraising organization? And actually, that's a really, really good question. United Way is a fundraising organization and has been for many, many, many years. However, about 10, 15 years ago, United Way did a really massive rethink. And it was with the advent of the internet and other things. They asked themselves some hard questions, and this was a national conversation. They asked themselves, well, look, we've always raised money locally. We've always made sure those monies go to areas of greatest local need. And it's really made a huge difference in communities across all of America. And when United Way asked them questions, is this really sustainable? Is this really, are we just a pass-through organization? Can people do this themselves? And during this long conversation, we came back with some answers. And one answer was actually, we are a fundraising organization, we should stay a fundraising organization. Because if United Way moved out of that role of raising money locally and making sure it went to areas of greatest local need, that money would disappear. And those local agencies and organizations and the communities themselves would be much poorer off. It would just have nobody would step in. The money would disappear. But United Way came back with another answer, and they didn't quite expect this, that they realized there was a gap. And there was a gap in terms of where people's efforts and focus was, and that was in terms of addressing problems before they happen, the true piece of prevention. And United Way said, who else, if we're not going to step into this gap, who else is? So at that time, United Way adopted a brand new strategy called the Community Impact Model. And it was really to prevent these problems from happening, to make sure that people have the building blocks of a successful life. So United Way staying a fundraising organization, but raising funds to prevent the root causes of problems. So United Way, anywhere, is only focused on three things: health, income, and education. Again, because those are the building blocks of a successful life. Then it's up for each local United Way to identify, well, what does that really mean to our local community? And at that point, we were United Way of Morris County, this was about 7 years ago, and we thought, I had a K-12 part of that education pillar, and we asked ourselves, well, what do kids really need to thrive? What's missing? What can we do to support schools in the community to make sure that kids have those foundational building blocks? And we came back with some answers, and we did our own huge community conversation. And that was, number one, is that we have to support the schools. In the schools, you have the kids. It's much more efficient to really support what's happening in the schools than to try to piecemeal it. The second really important thing is that kids have to feel safe and connected before they can learn. And that the social and emotional foundational piece is really the foundation that everything sits on. And that provides the skills that the children with the skills really, really need to thrive academically, which Trish will talk about in a little while, that foundational research piece around that. But also really important in life is that when children have strong social emotional skills, disciplinary issues go down, academic achievement goes up. It's really, really striking. So at that time, we thought, okay, let's do this. And this is just about the end of the history lesson, is that we then ran into, well, how can we do this effectively in our area? We met a gentleman named Dr. Maurice Elias. He's a professor from Rutgers University, He's one of the leading thinkers nationally and internationally around school culture and climate and social emotional learning. He happened to have a very big grant at the time from the Department of Education called Developing Safe and Civil Schools. That grant was working with 262 schools throughout the state of New Jersey to help them address their culture and climate in a sustainable way, so that it was school-led, so that the schools could do this without a lot of external resources coming in. And he had devised, and this is pre-harassment, intimidation, and bullying legislation, a culture and climate assessment tool, as well as this 3-year process. At that time, he brought on 10 middle schools in Morristown to be part of his grant. The grant then just was, Title IV money at the end of 2009, 2010 went away, along with all that money. The grant came to a natural end. And the schools that were participating in the initiative found it so valuable, they said to us, can we please continue doing this? So at that time, Dr. Elias introduced us to the College of St. Elizabeth, and here's my note. So I'll hand it over to you now.
So I'm from the College of St. Elizabeth in Morristown, New Jersey. I don't know how many of you are familiar with us. We've been around since 1899, and I got there a couple of years after that. But we were founded by the Sisters of Charity as the first women's college in New Jersey. We now are the oldest and only women's college in New Jersey. And they founded the college because of the mission of the Sisters of Charity, which is to support the underserved, to support the poor, to try and work towards systemic change, to give voice to those that don't have voice. So in 1899, the best idea that they had was to do so to support women, and that was to support women through education. So since then, we have really grown and expanded, and we still have a women's college, but we have co-educational programs at the graduate level. We have 2 doctoral programs. I am a professor of psychology. I spent most of my career at the college in the psychology department before becoming a dean. And back when the character education movement began, we really took that very seriously in the psychology program and in our education programs. And we worked with Boris Elias to develop curricula for our higher education programs related to public education. So in our master's in school counseling, in our teacher education preparation programs, in our education, we infuse training around social emotional learning, culture and climate in all these programs to promote an understanding of the importance of this plate, as Liz said, that success really rests on for future professionals. When I became Dean of Human and Social Development, which is an area of the college that encompasses those programs that I just mentioned, along with some others, we decided to also found a Center for Human and Social Development. We're doing a number of initiatives, including continuing that work in higher education, curriculum development in this area. Maurice and I are co-leaders of a grant-funded project to develop an online credentialing program for school leaders in social emotional learning and culture and climate. And Maurice introduced me to Liz, and we formed several years ago a formal partnership between the center and the Youth Empowerment Alliance. So in the Center for Human and Social Development, we also have a culture and climate assessment lab. And through that lab, we have expanded the original assessment tool that Maurice developed for the Developing Safe and Civil Schools project. We have that tool, which is a survey that takes the pulse of the perception of culture and climate from all the constituencies in the school community. And then we have all of our experts, along with other consultants who we have brought on board, who are former superintendents, former school teachers, and counselors who are part of our team. So we have developed and extended the 3-year process that Developing Safe and Civil Schools founded. And we are working now with about 12 full districts, about 60 schools, 25,000 kids, plus staff in these schools. And as Liz mentioned, we're really finding that the science now is really overwhelming. That if you assess and address social emotional skills in the students in the school community, and you show that you have improved those, plus you have improved the perception of culture and climate, you get upwards of an 11 percentile point gain on standardized academic test scores in students. So you have that academic impact that no other variable, by the way, has been shown to affect those test scores. And it's not that we're all about test scores, but we're all about creating an atmosphere where students can be successful. And also, all the other good stuff goes up. Feelings of worth, of hopefulness, of school connectedness, et cetera. All those perceptions go up. And all the bad stuff goes down. Substance abuse. The EBDRS report data goes down. The violence and vandalism data showing impact. So we found that it's a really, really powerful process, and we're really looking forward to working with Montville schools as well. You want this?
Yeah, basically, and then we love your questions as well, because both Trish and I could talk for practically. And we have come up, which is, I should just back up a little bit, is that it's been a wonderful year we've spent sort of getting to know the district a little bit. In addition to the Culture and Climate Initiative itself, we have something called the School Support Network, which is we're supporting schools who are just beginning to learn. It's an open ticket to any school interested in addressing culture and climate. We're very much leaders within the area, within the state around this. What the process involves and what we're specifically talking about possibly doing with Montville is what these other districts that Trish mentioned are doing, which would entail a culture and climate assessment of every student and every staff member, as well as a 3-year process. We match a consultant with each school to help guide, sort of be a best friend of the school safety teams, which is what we don't create extra teams, we don't create extra work, to help address culture and climate. And it's really a process which schools are mandated to address culture and climate. As we heard from the legislation, prevention is directly linked to the culture and climate that schools have to assess. So our view is sort of, if you're going to assess it and if you're going to address it, why not do it in a way that's going to have the most impact and with support as possible? So our consultants would sit and really just help coach the teams along in each school. There's a staff team, there's a student team. When we look at the data, it's really, really important that we look at strengths, and in addition to just kind of celebrating strengths, which is so important to do, identifying, well, why are those strengths? And really asking the deep questions, because it's just not good enough to say, hey, yay, we're great. It's like, well, why? Why do those students perceive that teachers like coming to school? What is it that teachers are doing? How can we make that so that that's more systemic, that happens without just happenstance? So really understanding that climate of the school. And likewise, there's opportunities. And quite often, it's great to pick some things and some projects right away we can get some traction on. So it's very supportive. Every school works at its own pace. It's school-led, which is really important. It's not as if everyone's trying to get to a certain achievement. It's more how the school goes about approaching these problems. So that's kind of the nuts and the bolts. I'm sure you probably have lots of questions. There's also a macro issue of why we're doing this, which is quite interesting, is that the outside world has a really tough time getting resources and support into schools. And that's because every school and every district is sort of structured differently. And likewise, is that once an intervention, a support, a resource, a program, whatever is in a school, to make it sustainable is really key. Because quite often a program or something will have a cheerleader, an advocate, and when they leave, it kind of disappears. So what we're providing as well is sort of a portal into a school for resources, as well as a table for those needs to sit. And a really nice way of thinking about this is an image called the double schoolhouse. So that if you can imagine, and this is something that Dr. Elias uses quite often, and it's used quite a bit, is that you have a schoolhouse, you have all these great programs, and you've got the curriculum, and you have anti-bullying programs, and there's substance abuse, and that they're all in there, and then you get all jumbled up because things evolve. And how often do you kind of clean your own closet, kind of use analogy at home? I view it as a good example is if you get your first garden bed. You grow up, you want to have a garden. It's a 12 by 12-foot garden bed. You're all excited. The very first thing you're going to plant in this garden bed is a rose. Your grandmother loved roses, and you want to honor her. And there goes the rose bush. The other thing you want to plant is a great a couple of tomato plants, because your other grandma loved tomato plants. You plant the tomato bush. And then your little girl wants an evergreen tree with fairy-like on during Christmas time. You put that in. Some birds fly over and they drop in some seeds. You get round cucumbers. Kind of cool, really fun, but not really planned. Pretty soon what happens after a year or two? The roses isn't thriving. It's there, but it's not thriving. The tomatoes are with these aphids. You can't even see the evergreen tree at Christmas time anymore. So the idea is to just organize it. undumble the schoolhouse. And that's part of what the team does as well, that it really helps the school itself kind of get things organized. And we have processes and we have, that's the consultant will help that time. So, would you like to ask any questions, or would you like to hear more about any part of what we said?
No, I think questions is good right now. Anybody on the board, have any questions? I think I'm a little familiar with what you do, just as someone who's familiar with the program that Cedar Hill has, the character education program. I think you've been involved with that program. I know it's met with you've given them awards for the program, and I know it has met with a great deal of success over at Cedar Hill School.
Yeah, the character education programs, there are a lot of great evidence-based programs, and we have what we call a virtual toolbox, which is full of real people, but also tools and resources. And there are a number of evidence-based character education programs that we can point you to. But I think, as Liz was saying, what's key about what we do is the process. So it really depends on what the specific needs are that are really identified by the school teams. And then we can say, well, if you have this need, we have these resources that we can point you to. The goal that we really have is not to have character education be 1 hour every Friday of the week, which is not that hard, but to really have it be infused through the life and curriculum of the school. What we didn't mention as well is there's a really interesting crosswalk that can be done between the Common Core curriculum and social-emotional skills in students, as well as a crosswalk between the new teacher evaluation system and social-emotional skills of kids in the culture and climate of the classroom. So the things that we are talking about are going to only support the success of the incorporation of the new Common Core standards, as well as make teachers more successful in the classroom. So really about a process that makes it really part of the life and blood of the school community. But there also are lovely, very good evidence-based programs as well that can be brought into the school. But we're not a program. We don't come in and sell a program. It's really about the process of the resources and about the support. And we're out in 3 years. Not all the way. Really the goal is that our resources would no longer be needed, that this would be systemic, sustainable in the school community, which is also why we try and take a district-wide, even though the school had a district-wide approach, because kids go through school buildings, people come and go, so we're really about changing the way that the pulse is of the school.
Any other questions, comments?
Yes, as one who was a psych minor in college, I get what you're trying to do, and I think it's really the two of you to be commended for the concept and for trying to move something like this forward. By the same token, and please pardon me for saying this, I don't want to say anything negative about the program overall, but with all of the mandates that have come in from Trenton, I'm so concerned about the time that our administrators and our teachers have to spend on so many issues other than actually teaching the students. And my concern, I guess, would be voiced in a handful of ways. How time-consuming would this be for administration teachers? And I also, another part of it is I'd like to get a sense from the superintendent, from Dr. Freed, his thoughts about this.
What's really important, and you are so right. It is hard to be a teacher. You know, there's so many things coming out, and I think what's really important about what we're offering schools is that it's at their pace. They drive it. We simply are there to support them. So if a school just wants to go very slowly, that's fine. We use the school safety team that has to meet anyway, so there doesn't even have to be any extra meetings. What we've found in the schools, because every school is feeling overwhelmed and under-resourced, I mean, I haven't found one yet that isn't, is that they find this reassuring, because if they know that there's a team that's supportive, that's warm, that's not telling them to do anything, they're the ones who decide what to do, it actually is reassuring and supportive. And it's up to them to decide how to focus their work. And also what our consultants do is that they help them if they do decide to do something, to work on a project or something that's emerged from the data. The consultant will help facilitate that in the sense of doing the research of, like, let's say there's a new character education program that wants to be brought in. Our consultant will go out and do the legwork to help give 3 or 4 choices, to help figure out, well, what do we have going on in the school, social, emotional, character development, health and wellness inventory. We can do that. So we really are there to support what the school has to do anyway.
Just an additional comment too, is everything that you're talking about is absolutely the case, and it absolutely is affecting teacher morale and the administrator morale. So it's at this kind of time where this is needed even more, because teacher morale is going to affect the culture and climate of the school. That's going to affect students' perception of the school, connectedness to them and to the school. So it's even more important now that people are really, really stressed. And we're so well aware of it. And as Liz mentioned, we do have a school support network where it's free ticket for anyone to come once a month and read. And we're working through that network too to try and mitigate some of the stress that's coming down because of these mandates, but also to be successful in achieving those. This is what is critical. And we really recognize that there's this external demand level from outside.
Quite often the teams will be focusing on morale.
I know you mentioned that there was a grant prior to this. Is there a potential cost to the district for this?
Right, how the costs work is that this is and don't fall out of your chairs when I say this number, because it's not okay. It's expensive for us to deliver this. It costs about $20 per head, which is per head per student. Now, don't fall out of your chairs. However, what we've done and how our funding model works is we charge the district $2 per head. And so that leaves $18. How do we make up the rest of that $18? Through the United Way and the College of St. Elizabeth, through contributed resources, as well as through large funders, we make up that extra, the $10. And we can talk about who our funding partners are. It's Atlantic Health, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, we can talk about it in detail. That leaves $8. Now, we do business with the school. We'll bring in and do all of the supports for the $2 per head. So we're basically covering everything else except for that $8. And we will do business at $2. That's the number you guys really need to hear. But what we're asking districts to do is to participate in something called a community collaborative funding model. And that's because we feel that, as Trish mentioned, we really want to back out. Because the whole idea is that the fabric of the school becomes strong enough so that there doesn't need to be extra intervention. And so what this community funding model does, that we have an R&D person, research and development person from United Way, will come and meet with whoever appropriate in the district to talk about, well, can we reach out to the local communities and ask them to support this in some fashion? And the sorts of entities that we think of approaching are things like municipal alliances, Rotary clubs, PTOs, educational foundations, and we simply ask to share the initiative and say, would you consider contributing $1 per head or 50 cents per head? They might give $50, they might give $2,000 or more. It doesn't really matter, because what we found is that this is so important that this is more than just something that happens within the school. It is school-led, district-wide, and the more the community can be involved, the better. And we feel that people, from our experience, listen a bit more carefully if you ask them for a little something. And we just feel that after 3 years, those community connections might be stronger. It will help the school and the district know more about the social emotional foundation of the kids and how important it is. And this model is really, with our funders, they want to see districts and school districts contribute something, which is the $2. And so far this seems to be okay with that. Some districts are difficult. And we're responsible for the extra, for the big bulk of it. And that our main funder over the last 3 years has been Atlantic Health. They've been wonderful supporters, as well as Robert Wood Johnson recently, and we have some other smaller foundations.
And if the soliciting doesn't go the way you hope, then who covers it?
We're still here.
The other thing I wanted to add that too, is that this is really aligning, this community funding model is aligning with the way that funders are going in terms of the perception of what they ought to be doing. And cultures of health, communities of health, sustainable New Jersey projects are all going in this direction of really trying to create community partnerships. School communities are such an important part of the community, but so are other interested organizations. And again, about that sustainability piece. You get more people in to have skin in the game, you really build that community and culture.
And my last question, who does the solicitation? Is it the school or you guys?
What we do is that we have our person can come and sit with the government district, but we like the school to do it because it's your connections. And so we can provide some template letters, we can brainstorm with you, we can do whatever, but we feel it's much stronger to come to the school.
Jennifer will come and talk with you.
Are there other school districts in Morris County that you're working with?
Yeah, there's about 10 at the moment, and in Sussex and Warren as well. Lincoln Park, in fact, and I have some information I'll hand out to you. There's a little story about Lincoln Park, Florham Park, East Hanover, Denville, Harding, Madison, Stanhope, Camberg, Holbrook, and then there's more coming on board. And what we do is, just like with Montville, is that we've had a lovely time over the last year getting to know the guidance departments, and we, as we mentioned, is that we provide support all around. The school support network is something that we have between 50 and 150 school people attend on a monthly basis, and it's a wonderful networking event. So we're always talking to schools at different phases, and some are ready to commit to this. Others are supporting just through the school support network. So
We're also very, just to add, we're very connected to the Department of Education, because the assessment tool that we use is one of 3 that the Department of Education recommends schools use to assess social climate. And what comes with ours is all of us.
And the initiative has been nationally recognized as a national promising practice by the Character Education Partnership, as has the School Support Network. This is what we're doing here in northern New Jersey. It's being watched nationally. New Jersey's at the forefront because of the HIB legislation anyway. And so it's really interesting what we're doing. And it's wonderful in northern New Jersey that we have the resources. I kind of feel it is sort of our responsibility to kind of go forward a bit faster than some of the others because we have resources. And so we're very excited about what this is coming.
Paul, is this something that the administration would like us to move forward with?
So recently, we were present as an administrative team to hear the similar presentation, a bit longer, a bit more detail. The school support network is something that Leslie Sheckman, I think Leslie's still back there, has been involved in as our director of guidance with her guidance staff and going to those meetings for support. And I think I'm accurate to say that Leslie enjoys that relationship and feels it's valuable. So of course, that's apart and aside from this, because that can continue and take place. But again, you know, we've been proceeding slowly because, again, we want the Principal Board of Education to hear about this and to give its approval if the board thought it was something we could be worthwhile for us. But in addition, we wanted, of course, to make sure our administrative team was supportive. So we talked about different possibilities, about perhaps, I'll almost call it a pilot program, perhaps trying it out in our middle school and high school at first, not in our 5 elementary schools, to do it in a more, I guess I'll call it a manageable way, to see how it would work in those environments. So it is something that I think we want to continue to pursue, and if the board feels that they'd like to leave it in our hands as administratively, after this meeting, I would go back to our administrative staff, have another discussion, and perhaps propose that we move ahead in the middle school and high school initially to see how the effort would first go. And then I'm right when I say that we don't have to begin September 1st. It's not a project that goes in that kind of direction. So we certainly could begin it at some point this year, middle school and high school, and then of course look to continue that further in the other schools in the future.
I'm certainly fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, we have had it as one of our goals for the past maybe 5 years, school culture and climate. And anything that the administration supports, because we're not the experts, that would help advance that, I think the board could support. So, anyone have any other comment or?
Just one quick question. Have you spoken to, for instance, Lincoln Park or any of the other towns about their experiences with this program?
I haven't spoken to any administrators. Leslie, I'm not sure if you've had that experience.
Yes. We've been intimately involved in going to the monthly meetings, and at those monthly meetings, there are administrators like myself that attend along with the school counselors and the SACs from the different levels. So it's been very productive for us. And one of the things that you're seeing right now in our district, a lot of the great things that are happening because of the network that we're doing, the networking that we're actually doing with these folks and with all the other schools in the different counties. So there are a lot of people that are coming on board. When I first started, there weren't as many. I started a number of years ago. The counselors are very, very excited about this. And the truth is, they're the ones that brought this forward. So they brought
Our high school, the school counselors?
Yeah, the school counselors, and actually Cedar Hill started it with Heather Trammell and Ms. Kathy, bringing it forward in terms of the ideas that they were working in the schools. So each time that we go to these meetings, and we don't pay anything for this, this is essentially free professional development for us. The counselors are coming back constantly and taking it back to the school climate committees, and they're coming up with the ideas. One of the things that we're really excited about with this is that we want our students to have a voice in the schools because they're the ones that this is all about. So the schools have committees that they're starting, if they don't already have them, where there are students that are involved. Lazar's been doing that for a while. And so have some of the elementary schools, and now the high school's moving forward and doing the same thing. And these are all the ideas that are coming from the things that we're doing together. But what we want to do is we want to hear more. We want to hear from the students, and we want to hear from the staffs in terms of what they're looking for. We're not looking to find things that aren't good. We're looking to see what we're doing well with, and then move forward with those to keep building and have a community where also, I know in the high school, there's going to be a meeting because we're also looking to bring parents into this to collaborate. I've sat in meetings, for example, at Cedar Hill, where I'm sitting with fifth graders and parents who are working together, and the students are telling the parents what they need from them and the assistance that they need to bring things forward for the goals that they're setting. So some of the schools that I've met have first graders who have student committees, and they're putting things forward in their schools. So it's all about school climate and culture. It's something that we're required to do, and the surveying is something that we're required to do. So we really want to move forward with that, and with this kind of support, when you talk about taking time away from the professionals in the buildings, we don't have to do that because that big piece is being done by this organization for us. And we're not comparing school to school, that's not our goal. Our goal is for each school to look at themselves individually and see what they want to do in a collaborative effort as a community to move their schools forward. And that includes the voices of the students and the parents and the staff and the administration. Anybody that's in there is a part of that. So we've been very, very excited about it. And I can't say enough for what the counselors have come back with and the SACs and the ideas. The energy is there, and that's what's so exciting about it.
Karen, can I just interject? Dr. Modrak, I was also able to attend a workshop at the New Jersey School Board Association convention, and it was actually East Hanover's principals who gave it. And they spoke very highly of Liz and Trish, and they talked about the process. They've been involved in it, the success of it. They had PowerPoints, all the kids being involved, parent nights and student-led activities. So, I wanted to hear firsthand from a school that's involved, and they were very, very positive about the entire experience, and they felt like they've already started to make some of those systemic changes.
Andrea, did they say how they solicited their funds throughout the township?
No, they didn't get into the funding part of it, but they talked about how they did have some community partnerships because a lot of these, a lot of the things that they did were donated by community members and businesses within East Hanover. So they did somehow go out to their community and solicit that support, and they got it. And they did some great things already at the 3 schools.
One of the things the cake class, the cake class in East Hanover.
He's now with us.
But one of the reasons that they probably didn't mention the community flag fundamentals, this is new, and we decided that it was worth formalizing because municipal alliances have been wanting to contribute. And so we thought, wait a second, this is actually a really good idea. And we were talking to Robert Wood Johnson recently. We thought, well, sustainability, how can we do this? And how can we support the schools who quite often strategic objectives are to, form those community connections anyway. And we thought, wait, this is a great idea because it helps the funding anyway, but it mostly helps the connections. So we're just starting this model this year. So, and again, that's why we do business whether anything's raised or not. It's really, we just think it's great for the district and it should help us to provide the service to more schools.
Well, the sense I get is that if this is brought forward by the administration as something that they want to move forward with, that the board would support it.
Great, and I have some folders with backgrounds about this because that might help as well. And I'm afraid I think that's 8, so you guys are going to have to duke it out.
So I want to thank you both for being here tonight, and our next step will be to bring our administrative team back together and to plan a specific direction, and then certainly let the Board of Education know what that proposal will be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out
Do you,
on this cold night.
Karen, do you want to allow any community members
Oh,
to,
sure.
before you two
Before you
leave,
go, would you
just-
mind entertaining
just in case any of our community
questions
members
from
would like
those in
to
attendance?
either make a comment or have a question?
Oh, right. Oh, yes, please.
I'll open up to the public if they had any questions for United Way and the Youth Empowerment Alliance. Jay?
Hi. I know we recently started, I'm not sure if you're aware of the program, but we recently last month brought Rachel's Challenge to our high school. And we're working a lot to spread kindness and try to provoke some new initiatives. And I've had the pleasure of being on the leadership committee for that. And I wanted to know from your perspective how you guys and the administration react directly with us, the students, in making these initiatives possible.
Great question. The student, we help the schools form both a student team and a staff team. So it sounds like you already have the seeds of a great student team in the building that you're in. The culture and climate assessment that's done is a pulse taking of the perception of culture and climate from everybody's perspective, student, staff, administration, parents, if the school wants to do that as well. The student team is critically important and works hand in hand with the staff team, but we have found in our experience over the last several years that having that student team and engaging the student voice has been the most powerful in terms of making a difference. So the student team is also supported by the consultant that Liz mentioned earlier to help guide the students, but the student projects that come out of those student teams are student-led. We engage students, we help students, we give them the resources that they need to carry out action plans to reach those goals. But I think what's really important about this is those action plans come from the survey data and conversations about the survey. And the student leaders on the team also go out and talk to their peers to gain as much information as possible so that the direction of that work is all nicely organized and aligned with both outcome from the survey, but also the opportunities that are there as well. And we have seen very effective second grade teams all the way through high school teams. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you.
Was there anyone else in the audience? Come on up and share a mic. Just say your name, where you live.
It's Montville.
Highbrook, actually. Andrew Orr, 7 Breton Drive. Just to play off of what Jay had said, the PTC is also working with parents to develop a Friends of Rachel parents group to support the kids. You mentioned, am I correct, that there would be a parent survey assessment for school culture and climate? Is that-
If the school wants to.
Okay, and then, in the same way that you would help the students, would you help the parent groups to work and support the students as well as any other parent initiatives?
Sure. Can I just say a little bit more about that too? The school safety team has to have a parent or parent representatives on that as well. So the culture and climate team in the school really needs to have parents' voice on that team, as well as having parents engaged in the assessment of perception of culture and climate. We have, the surveys that we have are in different versions, so we have a parent survey version. All of the staff and all of the students complete their versions of the survey. The reason why we were sort of sounding like we're hesitating about the parent survey is because the parent survey is voluntary. And so it's a little bit, it's subject to volunteer bias. So we talk and brainstorm at schools. We can do it that way. We can add focus groups to that survey. We can engage more voice because not everybody completes the survey. And then it's like the ball house, you got the lemon, you're unhappy. The people who complete that survey are different from those who chose not to. So it's a biased perception.
But for instance, one of the things that might come up from the discussion from the data, which is so important, and the parents would be part of that conversation, might be, how do we support the student teams? How do we form a closer collaboration and connection between the parents and the students? And so then everybody would talk, well, how can we do that? And what do we need to do that? And who do we need to talk to? And there, that will form like a first 8-week planning cycle. So it's sort of providing the table for these conversations to happen. That might be happening in pockets. It's bringing everyone together and make sure all the voices are heard.
And keeping it efficient.
Efficient, yeah.
Terry Becker, Diamond Road in Tuaco. I've had the benefit of going to a school support network meeting, and I've heard Dr. Rai speak, so I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I agree with all of it. My question is, how do you generate buy-in from everyone without us realizing that you're trying to generate buy-in?
Oh, that's a really, well, believe it or not, one of the reasons is why we're here tonight is that I think you would have had us come anyway. But we actually, before we do business with any school or district, we say you have to first come to school support network meetings. Trish and I say we really want to address the Board of Education. We address full staff in terms of training and explaining what this is all about. We've already been to Montville a couple of times, I think, doing this sort of thing. We really feel that the more transparent, the more open everyone is, the better. And so part of it is that it is really student and staff-led and school-led. So it's not our ideas, it comes from these teams. And one of the things we really stress during the data reviews is that, okay, if 3/4, it's on a Likert scale, let's say the data, 1 through 5, let's say it's a happy 4.3. But what if there's a small percentage of people who aren't happy? We always remember not to forget those people. And conversations will be, well, how do we include them? How do we find out why they don't agree with everybody else to be inclusive? But I think the magic is really, it truly is school-led, and it's student and staff-led. It's not us. And so it's up to the team itself, and where we provide help, and the consultants do, is that our consultants just have decades of experience in many different schools, and they can say, hey, here's an idea or there's an idea. And it's kind of a safe way to try stuff out, too. So,
Can I ask a question of the board about it at this point, or should I wait?
Sorry?
Can I ask a question of the
Sure.
board?
Yeah.
I would ask that in a pilot, you suggested you might consider it for the middle school and for the high school.
That's the recommendation.
Right. Would we consider including Cedar Hill? Only because they are really at the forefront, in my humble opinion, in terms of leading the district with their character education programs, consistently woven into the curriculum with assemblies, with programs, student-led. There is a partnership between teachers, students, and other staff right now. And I also believe, based on so much that Dr. Elias has put forth, that if we can have students thinking in K through 5, then it becomes an easier thing to think about when the real pressures of life come in the middle school. So I think that this would also be an excellent way to pull everything that Cedar Hill is doing together and be a model for the other 4 elementary schools in the district.
We'll certainly keep your comment in mind, and by no means did I think that we would exclude the elementary schools. We might just start them a few months later. So in other words, if we started middle school, high school this year, it might be September we began the 5 elementary schools, something like that. But we'll talk with administrative council, and I'll certainly take the comments into account.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch with you. Thank you.
Okay, so, yeah. Business administrators report, please.
Thank you, Dr. Perlino. Just briefly, in the board's packets on Friday, I included a draft of the 2015-2016 proposed budget development calendar. It's tentative at this point. We'll be reviewing it at our next Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, which we're probably going to need to schedule soon, Dr. Kane, probably within the next 2 weeks, actually. I'm going to speak to Mr. Brown beginning of next week. And of course, Dr. Perlino as well, and Mr. Coon. I'll be looking to have a Finance and Facilities Committee before, probably a good week in advance of the December 15th board meeting, because I'm going to need to move 2 initiatives. One is the custodial operations contract, I'll be coming with a recommendation, and then also the financial audit as well. That being said, if there's any questions at this time on the budget development calendar itself that I disseminated. Okay. All right, well, thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Jim. Are there any committee reports?
Karen, I did just want to mention, if no one else is going to report, that Communications would like to set up a meeting, and I'll be in touch with everybody at the beginning of December.
Thank you, Matt.
Also, Karen, if we could set up a security meeting also for the month of December also.
Are there any other committee reports? If not, any delegate liaison reports? I will tell you that I attended the New Jersey School Boards Association Delegate Assembly this past Saturday down in West Windsor. Report from the Executive Director, Dr. Lawrence Feinsod. He reported that NJSBA is approving a new strategic plan with 4 elements: student achievement, leadership, effective governance, and finance. And there's also a program for schools to become involved in the certification by Sustainable New Jersey. NJSBA also mentioned that they themselves have been out fundraising, and they have secured from New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance a $100,000 grant, which will go through their fundraising arm called ELF, the Educational Leadership Foundation, which funds some programs that NJSBA runs. The Investors Bank has contributed $200,000, $100,000 to the Educational Leadership Foundation, as well as $100,000 to NJSBA to maintain a presence at workshop. And I'll just report on a couple of resolutions that were passed by NJSBA, by the delegates that were present at NJSBA, and every school district in the entire state is entitled to a delegate to vote on the business of NJSBA twice a year. One of the resolutions would make all advisory opinions of the School Ethics Commission public unless requested that they remain private. That passed. Another resolution that passed would place a statutory cap on year-over-year per pupil tuition increases levied by receiving school districts as well as vocational schools and special needs schools. And the last resolution that actually this resolution, it did pass. This is a resolution that involves the doctrine of necessity, which would allow the use of the doctrine of necessity when a board is searching for and selecting a new superintendent. The doctrine of necessity is used when a school board has a majority of conflicted members. Conflicted members would be members who have some conflict. Married to a teacher, being a teacher, somehow having some relationship with the school. So for school boards that have a majority of school board members that are conflicted, they will impose the doctrine of necessity. But what this allows a school district to do, which under normal circumstances would not allow to be happen, is to actually participate in the process for the search for a new superintendent of schools. So that passed as well. I'll also report that on Thursday, New Jersey School Boards Association, Morris County School Boards Association is hosting the second meeting of the year. That's November 20th. The subject is STEAM, and our own Ed Fleischman will be one of the presenters, so we look forward to Thursday. Any other liaison reports?
Now, Karen, I did not review what I learned at the New Jersey School Boards Convention. My report, is this an opportune time to do so? I'll do it as quickly as possible. It's business we have to do.
Yes, I remember you put it off last time.
Well, yeah, smaller crowd tonight, so I'm sorry to everyone to belabor this, but I did talk a little bit about seeing you and Dr. Fried speak at the Building and Maintaining an Effective Governance team. Did an admirable job, and I spoke about it last time, so I won't say anything more. Attended a couple of other lectures, say goodbye to boring school board meetings. That was by the Washington Township Superintendent Jeff Moore. And however, many of the things that he recommended were doing things like varying venues, honoring school leaders, letting them speak about one program in their school that's different and unique, and have the teachers participate as well. Obviously, it's all about the kids, and that's something we do in Montville already. He did stress that it's important for all board members to give positive feedback, and they did have the idea of bringing refreshments for the kids. Also talked about student government night, having the swearing in the student council members and bringing their parents to board members, any sports champs or teams, etc. NHS or NJHS inductees. There were a number of ideas. If anybody wants to talk to me, I can go over them in private.
Sounds like good information for our communications committee.
It was good information, and we will discuss it then. I also went to a meeting about the energy savings improvement plan that is proposed for schools. However, once again, Montville is already doing everything. So it was nice to hear, but we're doing it. And then finally, I did listen to the attorney David Sierra, who I know, Karen, you and I have talked about him and his organization, the Educational Law Center. And Mr. Sierra is an individual who has for many years backed the ex-Abbott districts and tried to promote equity within New Jersey schools. It was a really interesting talk, and he's done a lot of things that were very positive for the schools that are less fortunate than Montville. I do have to say, and there are superintendents from some of the ex-Abbott districts as well, when he started talking and the superintendent started complaining about cuts in state funding, I came very close to talking to them about the plight of the suburban school district, because we here in Montville have already lost $10 to $11 million ourselves, and it has made the running of the district very difficult for us too. However, the efforts of Mr. Sierra, which are well published, were extremely beneficial to hear, and I applaud him and the Educational Law Center for what they did.
Yeah, and to his credit, it was the Education Law Center that actually published the data that allowed us to realize the cumulative losses over the past 4 years, which, as Matt said, are in excess of $10 million of lost state aid.
For Montville.
For Montville alone. So imagine the rest. I think Morris County lost $250 million. Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Karen.
Are there any PTC liaison reports? Okay. I'll open it up to the public for items on the agenda. That's good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay. Yes.
Hi, Terry Ann Movadine, 3 Silver Drive, Pembroke. May I just ask Mrs. Sheckman, since she's still here, a question about the program? Is that allowable? And then I had a comment from the board based on her answer. Is that allowed?
Sure.
So it sounded like a lot of talk about what to do when there's positive things. But in order to find out about the negatives that may be going on, are there going to be anonymous type surveys? Is that part of this process?
Yes, the survey actually covers opinions across the board. So whatever anybody feels, they share.
And it's anonymous?
And it's anonymous,
Oh,
completely
okay.
anonymous. So what ends up happening is Dr. Elias and St. E's, the people from St. E's, work together to do the evaluations of the surveys. They, the whole think tank that works on this, we don't do that. And they don't bring back, so-and-so said this or so-and-so said that. What they bring back to us is statistical information to help us understand, based on different categories, where we're doing really, really well, where we might want to work or pinpoint some new ideas to bring things forward. So we'll see everything, but it's not going to be this person said this or this person said that.
Right.
So the whole idea is you survey all of the students and all the staff. They have their own, and the surveys are age appropriate.
Okay. And then the woman mentioned it would be very school focused, but I'm going to assume, Dr. Freed, that central administration is privy to all of the results. Is that still going to be correct?
Sure, of course. Yeah, I mean, we would be sharing the information, absolutely.
Okay, great. So given all of that, I wanted to urge the board very strongly to go forward with this. It sounds like a really great program.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close the public participation and entertain a motion for items I through O.
So motion.
Mike and John, or John and Mike, either way. Are there any-
Speak before Mary John, I get it.
Are there any questions on the minutes? Item J. K. L. M. N. O. P. Q. Okay. I think we can have there's no addendum tonight. How do you like that? Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Morel?
Abstain on I for October 8th, yes on everything else.
Mr. Cooney?
Yes on everything, abstain on K1, check number 77553.
Dr. Modrak?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Dr. Just if you just reference the bills list in your name, I'll take that. On the bills list?
Yes.
Under your, okay. So noted. And it was the October 8th minutes, entertained? November 8th, I'm sorry. And Dr. Corlino?
Yes, except abstain on K1 check number 77562 and on M1 number 1.
Motion's passed.
Yeah, it wasn't November 8th.
It's October 8th. Yeah,
We haven't done the November 8th.
I was going to say, I don't think I haven't,
Yeah.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Matt, you want to change it to October 8th?
October?
I'm sorry, Jim, yes.
Okay, October 8th, all right. No problem. So noted, and motion's passed.
Okay. Any old business, additional reports? I'll just say that a contingent of board members, we almost had a quorum, was present at the field corps dinner on November 12th. It was Matt, Charlie, Mike, Palma, and myself, and it was really a wonderful event. So thank you for the invitation to the field corps. Any other general comments?
Yeah, I want to make a general comment. I'll speak as a private citizen. This past Monday evening, there was this past Monday evening, and I say this for informational purposes, there was what was called a informational session by either it's Jersey Central Power and Light or First Energy, it depends upon which they want to be called at the moment. But it was about the power lines that are coming through our town, the second and third set of power lines that are coming through our town. And what I would want to say is that at some point in time, we had been promised some form of a public meeting where the public could actually ask questions, and apparently that's this Tuesday night. It is seemingly there may be something here in this building on Tuesday night. But this particular organization has been as slithery as possible in terms of giving correct, fair information to the public. Monday night amounted to a horse and pony show, which was, in essence, a table plank, where they divided as many concepts as possible, put up posters, and individually spoke with people, did not allow for public discourse. And in essence, this is something which is being moved through the district as quickly as possible by an organization that's trying to be as quiet as possible and not get any kind of an uprising from the public. I personally spoke to one of the representatives of whichever company this might be, and I was told that there would be an answer to the question about when there would actually be some kind of exchange by the public, for the public, with the public, answers, questions by individuals from the organization. She still hasn't gotten back to me. It's been 7 or 8 days. The public needs to understand what this project is. If anybody would like to see one of the pieces of informational literature, I'll leave it here. I would, as a citizen, just say there will be information in the papers about it, and members of the public should be watching.
Yeah, and I think, Matt, just to piggyback on that, to clear up any confusion about what's out there in the community, the board the Board of Education strenuously opposes the power lines, the new third set of power lines. I had heard that perhaps we weren't opposed to it, but I can assure you we are, and we're taking appropriate action as that action may be deemed necessary. We've met with representatives of JCP&L, and certainly the board is united in opposition to the lines, and if we are not successful in stopping them, we certainly want to have conversations with JCP&L about alternatives. Our primary concern is the children at Lazar, and that's where our focus is. Obviously, the municipality has the responsibility for the entire length of the lines. Our focus are those lines that are behind Lazar. So I can assure the public that we are taking whatever action, we will take whatever action, we are taking whatever action is necessary to ensure that the children at Lazar are in a safe environment.
Karen, on a lighter note, Valley View has their casino night this Friday night, just as a reminder to everybody.
What's Friday night?
Their casino night.
Oh, Valley View?
Yeah, lighter note.
Thank you.
Karen, I'll move back to speak as a board member now. The first set of power lines that came through, the PSE&G power lines, that firm was very upfront, very upstanding. And I look forward to hearing some communication from JCP&L. And as board vice president and a member of the board, I certainly connect with what you said, Karen, and support everything in our efforts that you mentioned. There was mention, which there's a potential source of confusion for those who were not at the meeting, which was a good amount of people in town. And there are some old power lines that are about 35 feet high, and they're planning on leaving them. And so that, in effect, is the second set of power lines. This firm is planning on then building another set of power lines, so that would be the third set, and those will be approximately 100 feet or so high, and they will be closer to Changebridge Road than the current shorter power lines that they own as well.
Right. Unlike the PSE&G lines that replace existing lines, the lines that JCP&L plan to build are brand new lines and would be in addition to the two lines that are already there. Mike?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, when we met a small group with the delegates, representatives from the company, I seem to feel like I left there with a lot more questions than answers, okay, in keeping with what you're saying. And they did say they were going to get back to us and we were going to meet again. Do we have any idea of when that might be, or any of those answers? Has anything been forthcoming, or do we have a time set that we will meet with them again?
Well, it was our hope to meet in a couple of weeks.
So it hasn't.
I don't know if they've reached out to us.
Hasn't been set yet?
No, is, would the board like me to contact their area manager and try to arrange another meeting? Is that something the board wants to happen?
I think we should have a follow-up meeting.
Okay, I can try to do that.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I'll open it up to the public. Any comments on anything you'd like to speak about?
Scott McCoppin, 14 Bogart Road. I was just wondering if you just clarify the policy on use of facilities by in-town sports programs and the charges that may be associated with using of those facilities. More specifically, an invoice that the Soccer Association received for, I believe, using a stadium field in the amount of $700. As a recreation commissioner, this has come to our attention for the last couple of meetings, and we've been asked by the Soccer Association what they should do with it. And I guess I'm asking you, are you looking to collect on that $700?
Can I respond?
Yes.
Sure. This was the soccer tournament, if I'm trying to remember, because there was a couple of the issues that I was dealing with the use of facilities. And this dates back, I believe, a few months now at least, right?
Yeah,
minimum.
but I understand the invoice is still open.
Yeah. And it was, I'm trying to remember exactly the circumstances. I believe they typically don't use the district's fields. They typically use, I guess, community fields or the other one up by Dawson. But they needed Montville fields for whatever reason. I can't remember exactly. Now, we would not typically charge any kind of a fee because they're Montville kids.
Right.
But my understanding was this was a tournament where it involved a whole bunch of children, I guess, and teams coming in from all over the place.
Right.
And that there was a charge for participation for those families that participated in this tournament.
Okay. There could be.
I believe, that's my understanding, and that would be the only reason that I would assess a fee per board policy. We have a board policy on use of facilities, regulations and the actual fee schedule. And we never assess a fee or a charge whenever it's an organization, an in-town organization that's, for the children, such as Broncos, for example, even the case of the Montville soccer, because it's Montville kids. In the case where we have a tournament, where you have a whole bunch of, children and families using it from many, many different towns, per board policy, we would assess a fee for that. Especially in the case where, and again, I was going by the use of facilities application, and please have somebody contact me if my interpretation is incorrect. I believe there was a fee that was charged for those folks by the soccer association to participate in that tournament.
Right, I guess
so that kind of plays into it too.
And I guess we should
profit.
probably go back to the soccer association just to determine whether or not the Montville teams that were in that were playing on the stadium field and not in the community park. So I could do that. I'll go back and I'll talk to them. But
sure.
I was just curious on the policy on that.
Yeah, that's the policy, and that's why, I'm starting to come back to me a little bit. I believe it was like last March, I believe that it was board approved, and it is still outstanding. Yes, that's correct. But if you have some further information, I'm more than happy to look further into it. If maybe there's some clarification, maybe my interpretation is incorrect, that there wasn't a charge to those families coming in from out of town. That might be something different that I could potentially bring back to the board to look for potential, waiver of that fee, if that's the particular case.
Okay, because I do know that your high school teams play on the township facility fields and do not get a bill for those, whether they use
The Montville kids.
Yes.
Right. We're not having other, out of
Okay.
town.
Well, we'll take it back.
I think, Scott, in the future, we plan to, the board members get a use of facilities agenda item whenever there's use of facilities. And we're going to be starting to post those with the minutes so that community members can actually see the use of our facilities, what charges are for, who gets charged, what they're charged for. And I think it will be very enlightening to the community about how often, almost every minute of every day, school facilities are used by the community, by our community.
Right.
So I look forward to when those use of facilities forms get posted.
Okay, and then the only other thing I would just bring up is that I know that you mentioned that the Broncos wanted to use the field for their last game of the season, all ages. And the commitment was that they would have not only the stadium field, but also the scoreboard and I think a mic for a sound system. And when they went there that day, they were only allowed to use the field and not use the scoreboard and the microphone system.
I wasn't aware.
And quite honestly, their comment was, we could have stayed at Dawson, had our scoreboards, had our microphones, and played on a field there. The whole idea was to give the incoming, what will be next year's freshmen and outgoing 8th graders, the opportunity to see and play on the high school field. So
Yeah,
it was a
that's
little
really good point,
disjointed,
so.
and I think it was a little last-minute rush to get everything done.
I think what you might want to do is check and see how the use of facilities form might have been filled out for that event. Because specifically, the October 21st agenda approves only the use of the field. So there might have been some miscommunication from whoever filled out the use of facilities by the time it got to Jim's office.
Right.
And that might have been the only request.
Yeah, and I think what we'll do.
You might
right,
want to double check that.
We have all of the leaders of those organizations that come to the rec commission meetings, so we should advise them that they should do that months in advance because it does need to be approved.
And be specific, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, typically, 60 days is great, but I understand that may not be, reasonable time-wise, so, 45 days is certainly 30 at a minimum.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're looking to use these facilities on a week-by-week basis. They're looking
Right,
to
this
do
was
it
like a
at
one
last week of the season, so they know when that is in the beginning of their season.
Right.
There should be no reason for them to not do it 2 months in advance.
Yeah, and that way we can work out those kind of wrinkles, because, as Dr. Portolino noted, both the facilities inside, the buildings and the fields are used extensively, and, but we always give obviously preference to Montville students,
Yeah, I just happened to notice that on that, for that particular item that you mentioned, only the field was approved by the board. And what I'm gathering is that it had to have been something in the use of facilities form, otherwise Jim would have put that on the agenda too.
I seem to recall that there was an amount that was going to be charged per game for the use of the scoreboard and for the sound system. Again, I could be wrong.
And I'd have to pull the use of facilities application, which I'm happy to do. Somebody can send me an email or give me a call, Scott. I'm happy. And just since I have you here, just if I could clarify real quickly with the Broncos, because I know that you're very active with the athletics in town. There is a misperception out there that I've been trying to kind of correct, and I keep seeming to spin my wheels on this, that the district is charging like the Broncos, and I believe there was another one, use of facility charges, and that's not true. The only thing that we're charging is we're looking for reimbursement for any custodial overtime expense. That's the only charge, and that's only because that's coming right out of the district's, and the taxpayers' pocket. We don't even charge for regular custodial time, because I've got a custodian anyway in a building, in the gym. I'm not going to charge the organization for that. It's only when I got to pull in overtime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Is there anyone else? Okay, motion to adjourn? Oh, okay. Come to the mic, Jake, now.
Gail Baton, 47 Big Piece Road, Fairfield, New Jersey. The reason why I'm speaking is about the JCP&L situation. Next Tuesday, the Township Committee meeting at 6 o'clock, they're having a meeting. JCP&L is invited, whether they show up or not, that's, who knows, and whether they'll answer questions or not, who knows. But they are having a meeting where people can speak out. And their consulting firm, that Mazer Consulting, is going to be there with the lawyers and the whole bit. So if anybody, just don't, it's at 6 o'clock and not at 8.
Thank you, Gail, for that information. Jay?
I did unfortunately leave out one small part of my student report that I just want to say for 1 second.
No, of course.
Last Friday night was the Hall of Fame dinner at Lake Valhalla, and it was really an amazing event where we honored some people and some teams to come into the Hall of Fame at the high school. And congratulations to Mr. O'Brien, who was inducted and gave a great speech. And I just wanted to say that because it really was a great event, and a lot of students got to attend. I was fortunately one of them. And as someone who really was not aware that much on the committee, the process, and some of the incredible accomplishments that people that leave our high school do, it was really an incredible event.
Thank you, Jay, for sharing that. And congratulations to you, Mike, again. Okay.
Speak to that
Yes,
for just a
please.
second. A lot of people, and I may be redundant, don't realize what a great high school we have and the great opportunities. And as I said at the meeting, it was my life, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful school. And the people that are here, it's just a great community. I don't know what else to say. I'm so happy I had, could live my life in a town like this. It's a great place.
Anybody else? Motion to adjourn?